Hello students, welcome back to NewTicket Academy where we make your dreams come true. I guess you all are very much tense and you are worried about your boards, right? So in today's class, we are going to talk about an interesting topic from the CBSE class 10 chemistry, and that's the metals and non-metals. As you already have the brief discussion about the two previous chapters, the first chapter that was the chemical reactions and the second one was the acid bases. And now we are going to discuss the third chapter, the metals and non-metals. And as you know, I will be discussing few important points from the chapter, few concepts will be cleared here and 10 important questions will be discussed. So are you excited for the discussion? So without wasting any time, let's get started. Now as you already know that we are going to start the chapter synopsis. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss the physical properties as well as the chemical properties of metals and on the other hand the non-metals and how it reacts with other elements over there. Before moving to this, I want to share one interesting topic or one interesting fact about metals and non-metals. So, as you already know, what are the elements? So, the elements can be classified into two different categories. You are noting the point, right? Take out your pen and paper and take a note out of this, right? So, the elements that can be classified on their physical and chemical property. So, they are classified into two classes. One is the metal and other one the non-metals, right? Okay. So, after writing these all points, we will move to the physical properties of metals. Yes, write down the point and then we can move to the next part. Yes, I guess you have written the points as this is a very important topic that I am going to start now. That is, what are the properties, what are the physical properties of metals? So as you already know that metals are lustrous. That means they have the ability to shine. They have the property that's termed as a ductility. Okay? That means they can be drawn into wires. The third property that we are going to discuss here is they are malleable. That means they have the ability that is termed as malleability. Now what is that? They can be made into thin sheets. Generally, the metals are solids. There are few exceptions also like sodium. But most of the metals, they are solids in nature. The next point is they are very good conductors of electricity. So they are the conductors of electricity. You are writing the points now. These are very important. You will get many questions from this part only. And the last but not the least point is metals are very much dense. That means they have the density as well as high melting point. Let me just tell you again those points so that you can write the points. First is metals are lustrous, they have the ductility, they are malleable, they have high melting point, they are solids and they are the good conductors. Clear? Yes, take your time to write down the points as these are very important. Now, as we have completed all of the physical properties of metals, let us quickly move to the properties of non-metals. So, the non-metals, they are generally non-lustrous. That is just opposite from the metal. They are non-ductile, they are non-malleable, they are generally soft, and the exception is here. Yes, you know the answer. Yes, diamond. Diamond is one of the most hardest element in the world. Now, they are the poor conductors. Here is also the exception. Graphite is a good conductor of electricity. And they are generally of low density as well as low melting point. The exception question is diamond. I guess you have written the points. If you have still not written and repeating the points, non-metals, the properties for non-metals are, they are non-lustrous, they are non-ductile, they are non-malleable, they have the low density as well as low melting point, they are generally soft, and they are the poor conductors of electricity. I guess you have written everything from the metals and non-metals, right? So let us move to the chemical properties of. As we have discussed the physical properties of metals and non-metals, now we are going to discuss the chemical properties. So we will start with the chemical properties of metals. First thing that we will discuss here is that metal reacts with air to form the metal oxide. Okay. So I am just placing the definition as well as the reaction here. What happens over the reaction? Write down the thing in your copy. I guess you have written the first point. Yes. So coming back to the next chemical property of the metal oxides. As you already know about this part, but still in this chapter we are going to discuss about the amphoteric oxides. So metal oxides can react with the acids as well as the bases to form the salt and water. These kind of oxides are termed as the amphoteric oxide. This one is a very important question. Just write down the question that what do you mean by amphoteric oxide? Okay. Yeah. So you know the answer that amphoteric oxides are those that can react with both of the bases as well as the acid to form salt and water. And the example is aluminium oxide. Yes, I am giving you the equation here. Just write down the equation as well as the statement. Now the third one is the metal can also react with water to form metallic oxide. Yes, and that metallic oxide in turn can again react with water to form the hydroxides. Isn't this amazing? Yes. So just write down the equation as well as the theory. Yes, I am giving you the time. Please note it down. Now, the fourth chemical property is metal can also react with the diluted acids to form salt and hydrogen. Yes, you heard this correct, that it forms salt plus hydrogen. So, write down the equation as well as the theory, just like the previous ones. Okay, so as we have completed all of the chemical properties of metals, now we are going to discuss about some chemical properties of non-metals. Have you noted the points of the chemical properties of metals? Okay. So, the chemical properties of non-metals are, non-metals also can react with the air to form non-metallic oxide. Yes. And it is not reacting with the water as well as the acids to form the hydrogen and salt. It is not reacting, it is giving no reaction there. So the first point was it is reacting with the air to form non-metallic oxide, like carbon can react with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, and that is what non-metallic oxide. Yes, I am giving the statements for that as well as the equation. Have you written that? Now we can move further. The next point is here that non-metals can react with the salt solution and that can react there for hydrogen gas. In that case, it is displacing the less reactive non-metal there. Okay? Yes. The equation will be given. Now the last chemical property of non-metals are, it can react with hydrogen to form hydrides. Like hydrogen can react with sulfur to form the hydrogen sulfide. Yes, write down the equation. These points are also very important, just like the chemical properties of metals. Okay, now we are going to learn about an interesting thing, that is a reactivity series of metals. So, this is one series that has the decreasing order of metals that are arranged together, and that is termed as the reactivity series. That has the most reactive element at the top, that is the potassium, and the least reactive is at the bottom, that is the platinum. Okay. So I am showing you what is the reactivity series of metals. Just check that out and keep a note out of that. Keep a note out of that in your copy, that which elements are placed after which element in the reactivity series. That will help you in the reactions, so that you know that which one is highly reactive and which one is less reactive. So the displacement reaction occurs by the reactivity. Now I guess you know about the reactivity series. Now we are going to discuss about the ionic compounds and the covalent compounds. As we are talking about the metals and non-metals, so metals and non-metals do perform two types of bonding in them. First is the ionic compound or ionic bonding in them. So, in this case, the compounds, they are sharing their electron pair from the metals to non-metals, and they are forming the ionic compound. The example is sodium chloride. So sodium, that is one metal that is donating its electron to the chlorine and forming the sodium chloride compound. Now, as we already know that what are the ionic compounds, we need to know few properties about the ionic compounds. So ionic compounds, they are generally hard and solid. They have high melting as well as high boiling points. They are the good conductors in case of they are molded or solution states, and they can be soluble in the water but not in the inorganic solvents. So have you written the points? Just write down the points, the properties of ionic compounds. Now, as we know the facts about ionic compounds, let us know about the covalent bond. So, do you know the meaning of covalent? Yes, they are having the coactivity with them. So, the covalent compound are those compounds in them they share the electron pairs between two atoms, and in that case they are sharing their valence electrons to gain stability, just like chlorine atoms. They can share their electron to form the chlorine molecule, Cl2. Okay, I am giving you the diagram also for that, electron dot diagram, that how they are sharing their electrons. Now, as we know many factors about metals as well as the non-metals, how they bond, how they make their bonds. Now we need to know that where they occur, the occurrence of the metals. So the elements or the compounds that are found in the earth crust naturally, that is termed as the minerals. So write down this question, that what do you mean by minerals and where are they found? So, the minerals from which the pure metals are extracted, that are termed as mineral ores. Okay, so the minerals are those that are found naturally in the earth crust. The compounds, that is a mineral, but the minerals from which you are extracting the purest form of that particular metal is the ore of that metal. Clear? So I am attaching one chart in which the concept will be clear, that from ore how pure metals from the ores have few steps. So the steps are enrichment of the ore, extraction of the pure metal, and refining the metal. As you have already seen, what are the steps of extraction of metal from its mineral ore? So these are the steps. Okay. For a short question, you can just write down this 3 point that extraction of the metal have 3 steps. First step is enrichment of the metal. Second one is refining and extracting the purest form of the metal, and finally refining it to remove all of the impurities that is having. Okay, so the impurities from this point, I want to share another interesting thing that metals, as they are present in the Earth's crust, they also have few impurities, and those impurities can be soil, sand, etc. And those are termed as the gangs. Okay, and these needs to be separated from the metal so that we get the purest form of metal. Okay, I guess you have written the point. Yes, mark that in your book as well as write the definition of this one. So, as you already know that extraction of the metals can be done by the activity series, by the position of that particular metals in the activity series, like the low activity metals, middle position of the activity of those metals, and the highest active metals. Okay, so I am just giving you the equations for those extraction methods. Yes, note down those with the subheadings that low activity, middle activity, and highest activity. As we already know the extraction methods of those metals, we need to know how the refining of metals are done. So this process is termed as the electrolysis. In that case, impure strip of the metal is taken as the anode and the purest strip, pure metal strip is taken as a cathode. So in the electrolysis process only we can refine the metals. So it is also done commercially, so that is termed as commercial electrolysis of metals. I am giving you the diagram of that electrolysis, and this particular question is very important. You must attempt this question, as this question will give you full marks if you write the concepts clearly. Okay. Now, the last few points or few concepts are left here. First is the corrosion. I guess you have seen that when exposed to moist air for longer period, metals do corrode. That means they show the phenomena corrosion. You have seen the rusting in case of iron, that is the corrosion. And even the metals like silver, if you leave that in the open air, it will corrode and have a dull appearance. That is the corrosion. Okay? So the equation is given here as well as the definition. So write down the definition of corrosion as corrosion. This particular question also comes every year. Okay? Yeah. Now the next thing is alloy. Do you know what is the alloy? Metals can be melded with another metal to form the alloy, or the metals and non-metals can be mixed together to form the alloy, like brass, bronze, and stainless steel. There are many out of them, but I am just giving the 3 names here. Okay? So as we have completed the entire concept of this chapter, let's jump into the question answers. I am going to discuss 10 important questions from this chapter. Now the first question of this chapter is, the luster of the metals are due to its, and the options are, first option is density, the second option is high polishing, third is the chemical inertness of them, and finally the option is the free electrons present in them. Do you know what will be the correct option here? Yes, I am just stating you the correct option here and why that is the correct option here. Yes, the correct option is the option D. Electrons present in the metals. So there are many free electrons present in the metals, and as the light falls on the electrons, that keeps shining. So it gives a polished or shiny appearance to the metals. That is the reason why metals have the luster. Is this clear now? Now the second question is why copper is used in the hot water tanks and not the steam. Do you know the answer? Let me tell you. This question is related to the reactivity series. As you know that copper has the least reactivity with water. It does not react with hot water, cold water as well as steam. So it is not reacting with the water, and in the case of iron, it will react with the water and corrode the tank. That will finally corrode the water. So this is the reason why copper is used in case of the hot water tanks but not the steel or any iron products. So the third question is why sodium is kept immersed in kerosene oil. So this question is also from the topic the reactivity series, as sodium is very much reactive. So to avoid the contact with the air as well as the water, it is kept immersed in the kerosene oil. Clear? So from the next time, if anyone asks you the question, you know the answer, you can give them the answer here. So the fourth question is give 2 points to prevent rusting in case of iron. Do you know the points? Yes, I am discussing the points with you. First is to coat the iron object with the oil paint or a paint that can prevent the corrosion. And the next point is galvanizing the metal. You know the point of galvanizing? Yes. So you can galvanize or you can just coat it with a paint that can prevent the metal in case of corrosion. Just write down the answer in your copy, as this question is also very common in the exam. So you can expect this question will come in your boards also. Now the next question is what are the amphoteric oxides, and give examples. As I have already explained this concept in the previous part of this chapter, so the amphoteric oxides are those that can react both with the acids and the bases to form salt and water. Yes, the examples are aluminium oxides, lead oxide, etc. This question is common for you, so just write down the answer if you haven't written that in the previous portion. And the question is, give the example of the metal. First is liquid at room temperature. Next is it can be cut by knife. Third is best conductor of heat, and fourth one is poor conductor of heat. Do you know the answer? Yes, try a little bit. You know the answer because we have already covered the topics from this chapter. Yes, let me give you the answers. First one is liquid at room temperature. So that is mercury. Mercury is a metal that is liquid at room temperature. Second one was solid metal that can be cut by knife. That is sodium. Third one was best conductor of heat. That is silver. And last one, poor conductor of heat. That is lead. So I guess you have written the answers. If you haven't written, please write it down in your copy. Now the question is, why does calcium start floating when it reacts with water? And you have to also give the equation if the question is like this, that why this happened, why that happens. So the equation as well as the definition or the description is very much important. So keep that in mind that you have to give the equation whether they are asking for that or not. So here, what will be the answer? Do you know? Yes, calcium, when reacts with water, it forms calcium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. So in this case, what happens? The hydrogen gas is forming bubbles. So the calcium that starts floating over that hydrogen bubble, that is the reason why calcium starts floating when it starts reacting with the water. So the eighth question is, name two metals that melts when you keep that over your palm. Do you know the answer? Yes, this is one very interesting question. Gallium and cesium are those examples of metals that melts at the moment when you keep that over your palm. That melts over the heat that is produced from your body. Clear? Let us move to our ninth question now. So the question is, how copper is extracted from the sulfide ore of it, and you have to give the steps of the reaction. So the answer is a bit tricky. In this case, you have to give the diagram of the metal from the ore. So copper glans, that is the ore, sulfide ore of copper, when heated in the air, it reacts with the air to form copper oxide. It is getting partially oxidized in the first stage, and that copper oxide is again reacting with the copper glans to form the pure copper. So these are the steps for extracting copper from sulfide or sulfur ore of it. Clear? So yes, I am attaching the equations as well as the diagram for this question. 10th and the final question from this topic is, list two differences between galvanizing and alloying. As you already know that what is galvanization and what is the alloying. So let me again give you the differences between them. So in the first hand, when we are talking about galvanizing, in this case we are coating zinc plating over the iron or steel products. That is the galvanizing. And in this case, in the galvanizing, the inner properties of the metal is not changing at all. And in case of alloying, that is mixture of two or more metals or the metals and non-metals to form a new product there. So the inner properties, outer properties all are changing there. I guess this is clear now. So write down the points of the differences of galvanizing and alloying. Now, as we have already cleared all of the concepts and the 10 important questions, now it's time for the practice questions. So I am attaching few practice questions in this video. want to learn from me in the next video. So till that time,